true believers, this is Raul with CosplayFame. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the CosplayFame podcast. We are found on all social media at CosplayFame. So, without further ado, guys, the topic of the day for this podcast is going to be the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse review. We were really granted great access to see the movie 14 days before its release. So, without further ado, we would like to give you guys a spoiler-free review, which we'll probably talk about in the first 20 minutes of the podcast, and then we will do a full spoiler review after the initial 20 minutes. So, if you guys are into spoilers, by all means, just stroll ahead about 20 minutes, and we will get to that. If you're not, then the first 20 minutes of this podcast are what you want to listen to. Without further ado, again, I would like to thank you guys again for listening. Just to give you a few plugs, a few things that we are either going to be doing soon or we're always involved with. So, firstly, December 14th through the 16th, we will be at Holiday Matsuri. Holiday Matsuri is, of course, being held in Orlando at the Orlando Marriott. You can find out more about the Holiday Matsuri event at holidaymatsuri.com, which is HOLIDAYMATSURI.com. And it's a great event. A lot of cosplayers go up dressed in holiday versions of their cosplays. It's going to be great. I know Cosplay Kevin's going up. I know GC Geek Art Cosplay is going up. I know Seabear's cosplay is going up. I know Amazon Cosplayer, who I've been in constant contact with lately, is going up as well. There's a bunch of other great cosplayers. Of course, Mark Knight's going up as well. So please go check them out. Again, they're all going to be at Holiday Matsuri. HolidayMatsuri.com, again, in Orlando, December 14th through 16th. Really, really awesome event. You guys should go check it out. Of course, we always plug and we always want to give love and shine to what we feel is the greatest comic book store in the Miami area, not in the Fort Lauderdale or the Dania area or Northern Florida. In the Miami, South Florida area, the best comic book store, easily you can make an argument for, is Multiverse Corpse Comics, run by Tim Lewis, the whole staff there. Please give them some love this holiday season. They have a lot of great deals going on this holiday season. They have a lot of great artists coming in, not only for December, but also in the January time. And also a lot of great deals there, of course. They also do CGC rating there at their comic book store. So please go check them out. They also have a Substitute Santa event going on, I believe, every weekend. So by all means, go and stop by. You can check out a lot of really cool things there. Again, you want to go Multiverse Corpse Comics. It's located on 8th Street and 147th of Miami, Florida, of course. Or you can just look them up on multiversecorpsecomics.com or Multiverse Corpse Miami, I believe, at all social media. So go check them out, please, by all means. And lastly, we are ourselves as CosplayFame. It is the holiday season, so if you wish to purchase any cool cosplay merch, as far as shirts, pop sockets, CosplayFame, the link for Amazon is going to be up, of course, on our website and, of course, on our social media. You should go check us out on our Amazon page. Again, all you have to do is search CosplayFame on Amazon, and you can find all the great shirts and all the great little pop sockets we have available for that cosplayer that you know. There are really a lot of great items there to purchase. We have a "This is my off day cosplay" shirt. We have an "Always Be Cosplaying" shirt, ABC, Always Be Cosplaying, and also our logo shirt if you really like our logo. So please go check out that stuff. And if you ever have any ideas for like a cool shirt that you want us to put up, let us know. You can email us at cosplayfame.com. So without further ado, let's talk about this movie. So again, we were introduced and we were allowed to go into this movie and see it about 14 days ahead of time. We want to thank Alex, first of all, of course, of our own website, CosplayFame. And we want to say thank you to Sony and Sony PlayStation. They allowed us to view this movie 14 days ahead of time. That is kind of unheard of. Even when we got the Venom screening, that was only like 3 or 4 days ahead of time. This is a whole 2 weeks ahead of time to be talking about this movie. So let's just get into it really quickly. Is this movie a good movie? Yes. This movie is a very, very well done piece of work. Really well put together cast, a voice cast at least. Just to give you some hints into voice cast. Um, the voice of Miles Morales is the kid from Dope. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Dope. It's actually really good. He's the lead character from Dope is the voice of course, lead character Miles Morales in this film. Jack Johnson does the voice of, I believe, the Steve Ditko Spider-Man because he has the Steve Ditko eyes going on the whole time for his Spider-Man. And he's really, Jack Johnson kind of steals the movie a little bit every once in a while. He's a really good, not only voice actor, but everything I've ever seen him in, I never like questioned it. He's pretty good as an actor. Mahershala Ali does the voice of the Prowler in this film. Mahershala Ali, of course, Academy Award-winning actor from House of Cards. From I think he was also in the last two Hunger Game movies. Really good voice choice. Haley Steinfeld does the voice of Gwen Stacy. Haley Steinfeld's from True Grit. If you saw the movie True Grit, she's a little girl in that movie. Zoe Kravitz does the voice of MJ, which was an interesting choice. I did not know that. And then as far as like really interesting but solidly picked voice acting in this film, Liv Schreiber does the voice of Kingpin, and he's near perfect. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really worship the oh my god, how am I spacing on his name? The Vincent D'Onofrio portrayal of Kingpin in the Marvel Cinematic MCU Daredevil show. And I think he is the best true representation, the true life representation of Kingpin. But hearing Liv Schreiber as Kingpin was really wonderful and a really good piece of work in this film, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then like some really interesting, but they solidly work choices. John Mulaney as the voice of Spider-Ham, of course, and John Mulaney's just really a really great actor in general. I love all of his comedy specials. I love all the work he's done, like shows like Big Mouth, or Big is it Big Mouth or Big? I think it's Big Mouth. And he's just a really good actor, and that's coming from all the way from starting Saturday Night Live, all of his solo specials, working Big Mouth, of course. He's a really solid voice actor, and he did Spider-Ham tremendously, which I know sounds weird, but you need like a 1950s kind of cartoony voice, and John Mulaney really fits that role really well. Lastly, Nicolas Cage, of course, as Spider-Man Noir, is an awesome. You always think of like the wackadoo stuff that Nicolas Cage does, like Wicker Man or like Con Air, but his voice does fit really well for noir movies, and it makes me wonder: are we ever going to see Nicolas Cage do a like legitimate noir detective movie? Because his voice is fitted for it, and I think actually his acting, if he's more subtle, can fit it. On a side note, I did see Mandy finally, the Nicolas Cage movie that came out recently that has been getting like a lot of fanfare and a lot of publicity as being like probably Nicolas Cage's best movie in the last 5 years. While I will say Nicolas Cage performances is good in it, and the movie is interesting as far as a artistic movie, it's really good. The movie is super slow paced, a little too long in the tooth for me, even though it's only 2 hours. Because it's a simple story. It's a simple story. I understand that there's some nuance, and you're trying to develop like a world, I guess. But the movie goes really slow. So Mandy, it's okay. It's like a movie you see one time. You're like, okay, that was an interesting movie, and you kind of just put it in the back burner. And you probably maybe will watch like a highlight reel of it, but um, the movie is not as great as critics and others have said that it's like amazing. It's like a great movie. It's okay. It's okay. It's a decent, nice movie. So that's all I have to say about Mandy. Just to get off topic for a little bit. So a few pointers about this movie that I really enjoyed. And a few things before I get into spoilers and talking more about it. A few of the trailers that were seen before this movie was A Dog's Way Home, which I guess is like a sequel to A Dog's Purpose, or they're just trying to do like The Dog's Purpose over again. Because I think Dog's Purpose, when it first came out, had like a lot of controversy with it about specifically that swimming scene with the dog. They pushed him into the jets a little bit, and there was wondering about like if there was actual animal cruelty or not in that shot. We don't know really. So I guess this is like a sequel to try to like cover up the malcontent feeling that we had for The Dog's Purpose. And then we also got a Dragon Ball Super, excuse me, trailer for the Broly movie coming out, which is interesting because I guess Broly only comes out in movies for Dragon Ball. because that's the only times I've ever remembered. Broly was never a part of like the episodic shows. He was always just like a movie event. So it's just funny seeing that Broly never really comes out in the episodes. Or I may be wrong. Maybe in Dragon Ball GT he was in the episodes, but I really don't remember that. Besides that, a few other things to know about the movie that are really important for the audience to know. Of course, created by Sony and Sony Pictures. And again, it's in association with Marvel event. It's not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's not tied, even though there's always a possibility because it involves a multiverse. So there's always a possibility of something happening like that. But again, just like Venom was, this was an in association with Marvel event, not a Marvel event. Let me see what else we can talk about here. So one of the solid nails is to make this movie, like to solidify in your mind that this movie is good before we get into spoilers. This movie is a Lord and Miller project. So you have Phil Lord, and I forget Miller's first name, but Lord and Miller, ever since 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, the Lego movie, even Lego Batman, I believe, and also their involvement in the Han Solo movie. Everything I've ever seen Lord and Miller touch is pretty much gold. They know how to hit comedic notes on right parts. They know how to put in Easter eggs right when you need them. They're pretty much a solid duo. They're like the Russo brothers for just random films, and I recommend them highly. Anytime I've seen a Lord and Miller project, either them directing or producing or doing the story for it, Lord and Miller hits it out of the park every time. I mean, thinking about just 21 Jump Street, that sounded like a film that was destined to flop and fail, especially when you consider all the other films that came out that were based on a TV show like Chips or Dukes of Hazzard, for example. All those films, they usually just flop and fail horribly. So to see like 21 Jump Street do so well and actually expanded Channing Tatum's career, um, is a really good sign as for Lord and Miller in general. So again, this is a Lord and Miller project, and you can tell by just the way the art direction is, the way the comedic timing of the movie is, the storyline. It is a solid movie, something that is just well put together and easy to understand, and it's for all the audience. I think their opus was always like the Lego movie. Like, how can you make a Lego movie work? And they made it work magnificently. Um, the same thing with the Into Spider-Verse movie. How can you talk about a movie where you're opening up dimensional wormholes to allow other Spider-Men to come through? And they made it work amazingly. So again, anytime Lord and Miller touches a project, please go see it. I recommend that highly. I can't even state that enough. See everything Lord and Miller touch. Even the Han Solo movie, I don't know why it gets so much flack. The Han Solo movie was actually pretty good and really well done. And again, you could see that Lord Miller did have a touch and did have a say in some of the things, even though they were moved halfway through the project and Ron Howard replaced them. Like, you could see a lot of Lord Miller's touch in those films. So to go back to this, same idea, same concept. Lord Miller just are amazing, amazing Hollywood guys, amazing film makers who are just doing pretty much not only fan service, but doing what the audience has been craving for in a lot of these films. So lastly, the last two things I will go is mostly about the art of the movie. The art direction of this movie is fantastic. They do make it look a lot, and throughout the movie, there's a lot of pixelation and a lot of dot matrices going on in the animation of this movie. The reason why is because if you ever looked at an old comic book or even recent comic books, the closer you get like to the actual page, when you actually start looking closer in the page, all images are created with dot matrices. They're little dots pretty much that make up an image. They're pixels pretty much. So that pixelation look is throughout this movie, and it looks really good. There's a lot of like really nice art direction, a lot of Steve Ditko influences here, even some John Romita influence here. It's really well done, and I really enjoyed a lot of the shots of this movie and the beauty of this movie. You can see that they even did like a panel design. A lot of the movie has like moving panels and gives you like that comic book feel of like panel by panel display. Also, they have little word bubbles every once in a while. So this movie really tried to encapsulate like the comic book experience in a movie, which I loved a lot, which is something that I know that the Eric Bana, not John Woo, oh my, the Crouching Tiger and Dragon director, I forget his name, forgive me. The Ang Lee, excuse me, the Ang Lee Eric Bana Hulk tried to do some sequences like that, and it failed really bad. This movie picks up and does much better what that movie was trying to do, where it was like doing a lot of panel work, a lot of panel designs, a lot of sequences happening in different panels on the screen. I really, really enjoyed it. It was like just a homage to like and the enjoyment of an old school comic book and an old school feel, which I really loved about this movie. And it, again, the art direction. If you're a person who like, especially with Art Basel happening here in Miami in a few weeks, um, a person enjoying art will enjoy this film and how it's shot and how it's rendered and how like every every section of this film, every sequence in this film has some beautiful coloration and beautiful works. And again, it also brings in like that New York art style into it, which gets incorporated more later, especially with Miles' character. Um, just a lot of really good stuff in this film as far as just like art direction wise. Lastly, the music in this movie is really good. I like the last superhero movie I can think that had music like this good was Black Panther, of course, where Kendrick Lamar did a lot of the album and also Run the Jewels as part of that album. Um, this movie again with a lot of like New York artists. I know Rum DMC's in it for a little bit. I'm trying to think of some. I know that there's a Robert Parr sequence in it. There's a where they do the song from St. Elmo's Fire for a little while, which is hilarious. But it's really good, really well put together movie. As far as like the three major aspects of art, like the film itself, the story itself, the art direction, and the music in this movie is all really well encapsulated into this film, into like which I believe was only about an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours max. It's not a long movie, which is honestly, as a person who has sit through many long movies in his life, talking about Titanic, The Lord of the Rings, um, I enjoy having like a nice. It's like having like a really nice lunch. It's like having, you're not too full, but you got like right in that sweet spot pretty much. So anytime you get like a movie within an hour 45 to 2 hours, all about it. All about like, especially when it's jam packed with action and jam packed with good story. So we're almost at the 20-minute mark. So what else can I talk about with this movie? Okay, is there a post credit scene? That's obviously a question people ask a million times. There is a post credit scene in this film. It doesn't take too long to get to the credits. One thing I've enjoyed, like with like for example, Guardians of the Galaxy and some other films, whenever you're doing like these long credit waits, they have like really cool art design and art in the background of the credits, which I really enjoyed. The credits were all in Comic Sans, which I thought was funny. I mean, it is a comic book movie, and I think we forget that sometimes. But the whole entire font of this movie was in Comic Sans, which is cool, which is really nice. And there is a post credit scene. I'm not going to spoil the post credit scene because we're not spoiler time yet. But go check it out. It's really good. And is there, of course, a Stanley cameo? Yes, there is. I don't think that's a spoiler, especially when you're talking about Marvel movies nowadays. I don't think saying the Stan Lee's in the Marvel movie is a spoiler. So, uh, those are two questions I hope I answered for you there. That Stanley, there is a Stanley cameo, and there is a post-credit scene. So by all means, stay until the very end of the movie and watch it. Um, there were more trailers for like PlayStation games in this movie. Of course, this is a Sony movie, so there's a lot of Sony ad placement in this film. Hopefully that doesn't take you out of the movie. It didn't take me too much out of the movie, but know that it is a Sony movie, and one of the main goals of Sony movies is to put like their products in a Sony movie. So there's a lot of clear product placement in this movie for Sony products, but it doesn't take you out of the movie too much. At least I don't feel like it does. Maybe for some other people, like of course, whenever you see like obvious product placement, it's like, oh God, why? But it doesn't take you out too much, and I really enjoy this movie. Avi Arad, who has produced almost all the Sony movies, takes part. Amy Pascal, of course, who was head of Sony for a long time. I think she has her own production company, which makes me think that she's gonna break off from Sony soon. Um, is also one of the production companies that works on this film. And without further ado, we are hitting the 20-minute mark. So this is the spoiler section. So if you guys are not into spoilers, please just turn off your radios now or just change it to another episode. We will be having another episode coming up shortly following this one. So please, if you're not into spoilers, this is a fair warning. Please change the channel. So now that we talked about like the art direction again, like really well done art direction, there's a few Easter eggs I want to get into before we talk about the plot because they literally happen before the plot happens. The big one being is that the CCA, the comic books conduct allegiance or alliance, or I believe, makes a ad appearance, or not an ad appearance, but like they have like a good 5 to 10 second showing of their logo at the beginning of this film, which was odd. The reason why I say it's odd, and because I know a lot of people saw that logo forever in their comics, especially if you grew up in the 80s and the 90s, is because the CCA was kind of hated by most writers and artists in comic books, because the CCA basically stated that everything had to be PG content, that there couldn't be really killing, that there was like it was like the FCC, if you will, for comic books. And I think it got disbanded a while ago, actually. And I just don't know why Lord and Miller, or why the executives controlling this movie, decided to have that logo display for over 10 seconds. I guess because they think it was like a cool thing. It makes you feel like you're watching a comic book. So just put that logo up for a little while. But knowing the history of that logo, many people, including Stan Lee, hated that alliance and hated that the CCA. So that was a little odd. But I guess the main thinking I think they had was that, oh, let's make it like a comic book, so we'll throw the CCA logo up, which everyone saw back in the day. So that was a little odd, but that didn't take me out of the movie. It was just something I was like, I wrote down at the beginning. I literally took a pen and paper and notepad just to write down little things I was going to think about this movie. This movie, the plot of this movie is basically the plot of Ultimate Spider-Man, specifically the Miles Morales origin. It pretty much is almost beat for beat a lot of points with the Miles Morales origin story, to the point that he even references it a little bit. There's a great sequence for each Spider-Man of them basically talking about their origin story in like a minute snippet, which is great. And I really enjoyed it. I really thought that was really well put together, and I enjoyed it a lot. So one of the big questions that has been happening for this movie is, do Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man or Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man make an appearance in this movie? I will say that the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man does make an appearance in the movie. He's actually the Spider-Man of the universe that Miles Morales belongs to. But unfortunately, and I really don't know why they did this, he is voiced by Chris Pine and not by Tobey Maguire. I was really hoping for Tobey Maguire to make at least, because I know many people are very particular about who they like as Spider-Man. I know some people are really hardcore for Tom Holland. Some people really like the portrayal of the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. And some people don't like the portrayal of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I personally loved... I feel like... I hate saying this because I know I'm going to get a lot of flack. The Tobey Maguire portrayal of Spider-Man is the closest to being almost... Besides the Tom Holland, but we haven't had enough Tom Holland Spider-Man yet to compare. Especially considering Spider-Man 1 and 2, I always really enjoyed the Tobey Maguire, like this nerdy guy who all of a sudden inherited these powers and became the Spider-Man we know and love. So I usually lean a lot towards the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and I was kind of saddened that even though Chris Pine is a great actor, I really would have considered having Tobey Maguire in that role instead of Chris Pine. But nonetheless, and they do make like a really fun lampooning, if you will, of the Spider-Man 3 sequence of him dancing and the jazz, which was really funny. But definitely, clearly, the Spider-Man of Miles Morales' universe is the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. There is no question about that. So let's continue on. Let's continue talking about the film. The film opens up. Miles Morales is going to high school. He's is pretty much starts almost like a John Hughes movie. Like his kid is just uncomfortable going to high school. He has trouble like connecting with his parents. His father's a cop, of course. His mother's a nurse. And they, something I really did enjoy about this film, because Miles Morales is always known for being the first black Spider-Man, and that was like a really big deal. Like he was the first African American Spider-Man. But Miles Morales is also like half Puerto Rican. He's half Hispanic, and they do not shy away from that in this film. He speaks Spanish a lot in this movie. His mother is clearly of Hispanic origin. I think he's eating congri in the beginning of the movie, so or some form, maybe a paella, because it was like it was definitely yellow rice with like beans in it. So like they do not shy away from the diversity that is Miles Morales. Miles Morales is a super diverse character. Um, they do show a lot, and just like in the Ultimate Spider-Man, they do show his relation a lot with his uncle Aaron, and you of course find out who his uncle is later in the movie. We'll get to that later. Um, they show that he's really into like graffiti artwork. He gets he's his zen moments are him singing to himself, listening to either hip hop or rap, which is it comes up funnier later in the movie. Um, so Aaron, his uncle, takes him because he's still like his angsty teen, still trying to figure himself out, and Aaron takes him to a secluded area under a subway station in New York, so they can do graffiti work. The graffiti work saying expectations, no expectations, because he gets challenged by his professors about writing a book about his expectations, writing an essay about his expectations, and he just doesn't take to it really well. So he does the graffiti saying no expectations with an outline of himself in the middle. So while this all is all happening, unbeknownst to him, he is next to an Alchemex facility where a spider sneaks out, and the spider sneaks out. Of course, is a radioactive spider, has freaking not holographic, glow in the dark legs. It crawls out and bites him, and he doesn't realize anything. He sleeps the night, and the next night over, and then all of a sudden he has like the classic Peter Parker, oh my God, what's going on with me, Spider-Man moment, and he's walking around town, like still trying to figure out. He's sticking everything. He meets a blonde girl in school where she sticks his hand to with sticky like spider grip, which you'll find out who that blonde girl is later. Um, so that he's having this whole entire like origin sequence pretty much, and he decides to go back to the facility, to the underground area where the Alchemex facility was. He checks out the spider. The spider kind of glitches on him, and which will again be coming up later. And he travels further into the Alchemix facility. When he travels further in, he finds Spider-Man and Green Goblin, who's huge in this film. I guess I'm trying to remember the Ultimate Green Goblin, if he was like this monstrous character, but I guess they decided to make it for this film. So Green Goblin's like super huge in this film, and he's fighting the Chris Pine, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. They're fighting. They're going through this whole entire sequence. And they're inside the middle of a collider. The collider is opening up wormholes, basically, underneath the subway system here in Brooklyn and like New York. So Miles goes to try to help Spider-Man and try to do things with him, and Spider-Man realizes that he's been bitten by a spider, and he's like, "Oh man, you are also a spider person, so you can probably help me complete this mission here." And he's like, "I'll train you later." Da 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 da. So the collider turns on. Green Goblin pretty much smacks Spider-Man into the collider with Green Goblin, and it causes the collider to explode. You also see in the background that Kingpin is overwatching the whole entire situation, and that the Prowler is also somehow involved in this ordeal. So the collider explodes, and Miles Morales finds the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man's pretty much broken, dilapidated, and he tells Miles Morales, "Hey, you gotta take this chip, this like USB drive, and plug it into the machine to turn off the machine and to terminate this collider, because they're gonna destroy New York. They're gonna destroy the world if they decide to open up the multiverse, pretty much in Brooklyn, underneath Brooklyn." So he escapes. Miles Morales escapes. But in that same sequence, Kingpin legitimately kills the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, which is sad. It's weird seeing a villain ultimately completing his goal of killing a Spider-Man, of killing a hero. So that was really interesting. And I didn't know they were going to actually do. I know that one part of the Miles Morales origin story is that his Peter Parker in his universe dies and then makes Miles Morales become a Spider-Man. So Miles breaks the the USB drive, unfortunately. But he soon discovers that there's a funeral procession because people find out Peter Parker is Spider-Man and the Spider-Man's dead. And they have a huge funeral procession. And again, Miles Morales already broke the USB, so he's like pretty much destroyed and saddened by it. And now we're getting pretty much to that cutscene that we saw at the end of Venom. So that if you remember the end of Venom, this is where that cutscene happens. He's at the funeral. I mean, he's at the cemetery where Peter Parker's been buried, and he tells Peter Parker, "Hey, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm not what you were looking for. I don't have the abilities. I can't do it. I'm sorry I broke this, and I'm sorry I failed you, Peter Parker." And someone comes up behind him and is like, "Hey, kid, da, da." This is also where we find out, for people who haven't read the Ultimate series or don't know about Miles Morales, one of his powers is that he has electrical abilities, like he can shock people. Because I guess spiders can do that. I mean, so one of his abilities is that he can shock people, and because he gets surprised by the stranger, he shocks the stranger, and you find out it is a Peter Parker from another universe who is played by Jack Johnson. So they go through this whole ordeal because the NYPD. Oh, so one thing about the Ultimate Universe, or if you want to say the universe where Miles Morales is from in this film, there's a lot of little differences that tell you, hey, this is different. This universe is different from other universes. So one is like instead of being the NYPD, it's PDNY. So like the cops, they don't say like NYPD freeze. They say PDNY freeze. So that's something that's kind of unique about this universe. A few other things that are unique about this universe, which I love, which are hilarious to me. Instead of a blue man group, they have a red man group. So if you remember the blue man group, like there's people that do all these really cool performances. It's a red man group now, which I think is pretty funny. And lastly, and this poster every time it showed on screen made everyone laugh. And then it's pretty much, honestly, I would love to see this film get made because it just looks funny to me. The idea of it's funny to me. It's a Seth Rogen led movie as him as a jockey sitting backwards on a horse, and it says "Hold Your Horses" is the title. And the idea of that movie ever happening is just hilarious. And I thought that was a really cool, like, little snippet, little Easter egg in the movie, which is freaking hilarious to me. Also, the Stan Lee cameo happens around this time. Miles Morales buys himself a copy of the Spider-Man suit, and Stan Lee is the counter worker at the store where they sell the Spider-Man souvenirs and stuff like that. So that's where you see the Stan Lee cameo. So throughout the movie, the Jack Johnson Peter Parker, the Jack Johnson Spider-Man, is the one who's pretty much going to start training Peter Parker. He's much more versed to doing it than other Peter Parkers would be. He is a different Peter Parker. He's a much older, and notably throughout the movie they make fun of it, he's a much fatter Peter Parker. And it's really because he has gone through rough stuff in his life. This Peter Parker. This Peter Parker has divorced Mary Jane. This Peter Parker has seen Aunt May die. Not only Uncle Ben, but Aunt May as well die. And he is a broke, like totally bankrupt Peter Parker. So which is funny. It's also a funny portrayal of Peter Parker. So he's a much more versed to training other Spider-Man than Peter Parker. But he does it nonetheless. He starts training Spider-Man, and there's a lot of hijinks and really funny stuff happening. They call this Peter Parker's in this universe call the USB drive a goober because I guess it's a way of just it's like instead of saying a oh my god, what do you call it, a MacGuffin tool, they just call it a goober. So which I thought was really funny. They just kept saying goober throughout this movie. It was really funny. So they go back to the Alchemex headquarters. There they meet a scientist, a lady scientist, who you're like, oh, this is really cool. Who's voiced by Catherine Hearn, I believe her name is. She was the lady. If you ever seen Step Brothers, she's in a lot of the I forget the name of it, something Sanchez Productions, the team that's run by Will Ferrell and oh my, the Will Ferrell production company is what basically they say. Um, you've seen her in Step Brothers, you've seen her in Anchorman, you've seen her in a ton of movies. You would definitely recognize her. She was in Bad Moms as well. I don't know if that narrows it down for you. Um, she does the voice of this scientist lady. Um, so this Peter Parker, the Jack Johnson Peter Parker, is more in line with trying to create flirtation with subjects while trying to steal items. Oh, this is also where you learn that Miles Morales has the ability to turn invisible. Um, so while he's flirting with this lady kind of traps him in a chair, and then he finally asks, "What's your name again, lady? You said your name was Liz," and she goes, "Oh yeah, my name's Olivia." Olivia Octavius. And then you're like, "Oh my god." And you realize she is this universe's Dr. Octopus, and it's freaking awesome. She has different arms. She has like more of these like foam, not foam, sorry, like these tubular plastic arms instead of like metallic arms, which are pretty cool. And I guess with the idea, like if you have like a mad scientist enough time, she can make like these plastic robotic arms that will do the same thing as the metallic ones that normal Dr. Octopuses have. So they managed to escape the facility, which is a lot of hijinks and a lot of money. This movie has a lot of really good slapstick comedy, really good juxtaposition comedy in it, much like any other cartoon movie. But it's really good and really well put together. So they escape, and as they're escaping, Dr. Puss almost catches them, but they are saved by a stranger, another spider person, and it turns out to be Spider-Gwen or Gwen Stacy, which you find out is also the blonde hair girl from the beginning of the movie, which Miles' hand sticks to. Um, so it's really really cool sequences. This movie does not hide away the fact that Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales did definitely have like a romantic fling, which they do in the comic books, which is totally normal. I will say this movie, just to go on to the comic book side, because people are wondering if this movie story arc has anything to do with the one in the comic books. It does not. The only thing really from the comic book story arc that's similar as this one is the characters that are used, and that the fact that a whole Spider-Verse is, a whole universe of Spider-Man are available. But really, it has nothing to do. The Into the Spider-Verse, or the Spider-Verse arc that happens in the comic books, is much more morbid. It talks about a character named Moreland who's trying to kill all the Spider-Men in all the universes, and it has to do with like animal totems and stuff like that. It's really weird. This I would really rather have had as the Spider-Verse story arc, because the story arc in the original Spider-Verse arc was really morbid and talked about like killing Spider-Men and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed this story arc much better, honestly, than the Spider-Verse one. Um, so they decide, in effort to fix the goober, they decide to go to Aunt May's house, which is honestly, and Aunt May's voiced by Lily Tomlin. If you've seen the show on Netflix with her and Jane Fonda, she's that lady. She's a famous comedian from the 70s and 80s. I know people know her, but Lily Tomlin does the voice of Aunt May, which is great. I think she does amazing as Aunt May. So they decide to show up to the house, much to the how you say this word, much to the chagrin, pretty much, of Jack Johnson's Peter Parker, because remember, his Aunt May died in his universe. So even though they don't really play it off as an emotional sequence, Aunt May opens the door, and the first character you see his face is Jack Johnson's Spider-Man, and the reaction that this is like his second time to be with Aunt May, weirdly outside of his own universe. So they all meet with Aunt May, and Aunt May guides them to the shed in the back, which, again, this house is pretty much verbatim the Tobey Maguire house from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. she guides him to this little cabin in the back of the house, and it takes him to like this spider cave kind of deal, which is crazy. I mean, the idea that Spider-Man has like a spider cave, as much as Peter Parker is like one of the smartest people in the Marvel universe, it's kind of ridiculous that he has like a whole super cave, which you also get like a nice appearance of the spider buggy and a few other things like a spider bike and stuff like that. You also get a lot of Easter eggs of all the other Spider-Man costumes. They even have the PlayStation 4, the new Spider-Man costume from the PlayStation 4, the Focus costume I think it's called, is in there as well. So it's really cool. And here you meet, because all the other Spider-Mans that came out of the collider during the time of the explosion all meet here. So it's not just the Spider-Gwen from another universe. It's all, and not only the Jack Johnson. Here you meet Spider-Ham, Penny Parker, who's like this anime chick who has like a Gundam robot, pretty much Spider-Man, who is cybernetically linked to a telekinetic spider, which is inside the robot. And of course, Spider-Man Noir, who's done by Nicolas Cage, and they really ham it up with him, and they really kind of make fun of like Sin City and films like that, because they're always talking about like, why is he in black and white? Why is he talk like this? And it's just really funny. So they all meet up. They all try to figure out who's going to be the one that sticks the goober in the machine, because they all have to come back as well to their respective universes. So Miles is trying to say that he should do it, but they feel averse to having Miles do it because Miles is not well trained and he has no real control over his powers. So they're trying to figure it out, whatever. Miles pretty much becomes discontent with this whole discussion, depressed, and he walks away and he goes to the one person he could trust, Aaron, his uncle from back in the discussion. He goes to Aaron's house and he's alone. He writes a note for his uncle, and then he notices that the Prowler sneaks in, and he's like freaking out. He's like, "Oh crap!" The Prowler, who's like this top henchman for Kingpin, snuck in, and he's there hiding out, trying not to let the Prowler see him. And then all of a sudden, the Prowler does chase him out of the apartment. But you also find out at this moment that Aaron, his uncle, is the Prowler. So his uncle chases him out. He does not know that Miles is the Spider-Man yet. And Miles goes back to Aunt May's house, which leads all the bad guys to Aunt May's house, including Kingpin, including Dr. Octopus. Also, Tombstone makes an appearance in this movie, which is really cool. And there's like I believe this is the ultimate version, Scorpion, which has like mechanical legs and like he's more mechanical body. He has like more of a luchador personality. So during the scuffle, Aaron finds out that Miles Morales is the Spider-Man, and he's like wondering what the hell is he gonna do. And when it looks like Aaron's gonna pretty much join the side of the Spider-Man, Kingpin kills him as well. So it's a really emotional moment. He pretty much has the great power, great responsibility moment with Miles, and that leads to Miles again being super depressed about the whole situation. The Spider-Man see him again, and Jack Johnson pretty much tells him, the Jack Johnson Spider-Man, tells him that, hey, you're not ready for this, and he ties him to like a chair with webbing. Something I've been missing out on this whole entire time I'm talking about, because this movie's just jam-packed with action and jam-packed with a lot of storylines. The storyline between Miles and his father is very important throughout this movie. So in this sequence, it really shines, because it's Miles' father talking through the door to Miles, because he thinks that he's just an angsty teenager. He doesn't want to walk in on him, and tells him how much he loves him and that he sees a spark in him. And that speech that Miles' father gives to Miles through the door pretty much allows Miles to kind of go for a second chance and try to focus his powers, which he does, and he becomes ultimately the Spider-Man we know and love as Miles Morales Spider-Man. He goes back to Aunt May's house once again and creates his own suit. He finally creates the Miles Morales black and red Spider-Man suit. So they go back to the Alchemex facility, and they're all teamed up now. They're all going to end the sequence. So what is the main reason why the Kingpin is trying to create this collider and trying to create trying to open up a wormhole pretty much to the multiverses. You find out that in this world, his Vanessa and his son were killed because they found out that Kingpin was Kingpin as he was fighting Spider-Man, and they were shocked, which is much different than, of course, the MCU universe, because the Vanessa in that universe would be like, yeah, kill Spider-Man, whatever. So they were shocked by seeing the sequence of the Kingpin actually doing Kingpin things. And as they're driving off in shock, his son and his wife, they get hit by a truck and they're killed. So the reason why the Kingpin has been opening up wormholes to all the universes is because he's trying to find another copy of his Vanessa and his son to bring into this universe. Even though they would have glitched out, and that's like one of the main plot points, is that you can't be from another universe in this universe for too long. You can't hop universes and be normalized. Your atoms won't take well to it, and you'll eventually deteriorate. Your atoms can't hold your composition together. So through the shenanigans and the fighting and all the stuff, there's some really funny sequences. So the Doc Ock in this universe is really OP. Like, even though she has like these plastic octopus limbs, she's like super OP and super badass, and it takes like 3 Spider-Men to take her down. So there's a sequence when they're like, okay, we're gonna fight this Doc Ock. As she's like making her approach, she gets leveled by a truck that's flying around in this collider, because the collider's opening up again and all the multiverses are coming through the collider. And it's really funny. And it's really touching. You get a lot of really cool sequences, a lot of good like team up moments with like Spider-Ham and Noir Spider-Man and the Penny Parker Spider-Man. There's a lot of really cool like little sequences here and there. The film ends with Peter. The Jack Johnson Peter Parker was going to be the one to make the sacrifice to close the portal and stay behind and deteriorate. And Miles was like, no, that's my job. This is my universe. This is my job. So, which is cute, because like one like nuance about all these Spider-Mans, that they're all willing to sacrifice themselves. They're all willing to get into battle. They're all willing to be as Spider-Man as possible. They're almost all trying to out Spider-Man each other. So it comes down that Miles is the only one who's not glitching because it's his universe, and that he needs to save his universe to allow them all to go back to theirs. So finally, he convinces the Jack Johnson Spider-Man, to the Steve Ditko Spider-Man, if you will, to go back to his universe and make up with MJ and stuff like that. He defeats Kingpin, which his Kingpin is also super OP, super strong, and able to like jump around and move a lot faster than other Kingpins, which is really cool stuff. Again, it's all really cool, well done. A lot of really crazy art styles and really crazy cinematics are happening during all those collider scenes. So it makes for a really, really good sequence. The film ends with, again, Miles Morales admitting that this is his origin story finally, and that this is how he became Spider-Man. Of course, there's hints to like the romance that he's gonna have with Gwen Stacy Spider-Man, with the Gwen Stacy, which is not even, they don't even, she doesn't call herself Spider-Gwen. She calls herself Spider-Woman in her universe, because it makes sense. She's just a Spider-Woman. She's not a Spider-Gwen. She's Spider-Woman. So it's really cool. The one thing I didn't notice is I was looking through the comic books, and I always think of every cosplayer I've ever seen dress up as Spider-Gwen. She's wearing ballet shoes in this film. I don't know if that's normal with Spider-Gwen, because I was, even when they were talking about her origin story, she's like a rocker, and which I remember, like she was like a lead singer of a rock band, or like a guitarist of a rock band, which I remember from the Spider-Gwen story. I don't remember her ever doing ballet either in any of the universes. So that was a little odd to me, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe someone's gonna tell me differently that no, yeah, she does the ballet. Because again, I was looking through all the pictures I've ever had of any cosplayer dressing up as Spider-Gwen, of any of the art, and she does have blue bottom like shoes, but she doesn't have like ballet shoes. So I don't know if anyone can help me out with that further with the movie. The movie ends up and wraps up really nice. Of course, again, there's a lot of great comedy in this movie. I would compare it almost as to being as funny as Deadpool, just in a PG sense. It's really got a lot of great humor in it, and every character captures like a portion of the Spider-Man hijinks and the Spider-Man like quippiness that he's known for, not only in the comic books but in the movies as well. So every character is like a pretty good representation of Spider-Man. Um, and the movie ends up really nicely in a bow. Of course, Miles' arc is that he accepts being Spider-Man and that he accepts the love that his family gives him, and he accepts his role in this universe. Is pretty much the whole sequence, the whole arc of this movie. Each of the Spider-Mans all accept like their own personal battles. Like, I'm sorry, I forget. Jack Johnson, Steve Ditko Spider-Man reunites with Mary Jane. There's a lot of really cool sequences with that. So it's a really well put together movie. Really give credit again to Phil Lord and Miller. They did really good work on this film, and I hope they are continually given a lot of projects like this because they seem to be the people that knock these type of projects out of the park every time. And everything's great. Oh, the post-credit scene. Let's talk about the post-credit scene. The post-credit scene shows Miguel, of course, the Spider-Man 2099. He has a dimensional warping watch, I guess a time traveling dimensional warping watch, and he travels back to 1967 specifically to meet with the Spider-Man of the cartoon universe from the 1960s. And literally, they have the meme off of the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other, and it's a hilarious sequence. It's probably the funniest of the Marvel comics or any of the post-credit scenes I've ever seen in any movie, because it's literally them bringing a popular meme, to life in this movie, which is freaking hilarious. I really enjoyed that. There was also a really nice homage, not only to Stan Lee, but people forget that Steve Ditko also died a year ago as well. So there was a nice homage to not only Stan Lee but Steve Ditko as well at the very end of this movie. So I really enjoyed this movie. Sony seemingly has started knocking these Marvel movies out of the park with either Venom and now with the Spider-Man into the Spider-Man universe, into the Spider-Verse, excuse me, films. They've done really good. It's a big departure from the Amazing Spider-Man films, the Mark Webb Amazing Spider-Man films. It's a big departure from all the other Sony projects that they've tried to do Marvel-wise. Um, I just really like this movie. They put it really well together. It gives me hope for like the Black Cat, Silver Sable movie that's gonna be coming out sooner or later. The hope that they're also probably, because that Miguel to Spider-Man 2099 sequence also kind of hints to like a sequel coming up. So they did a lot of really good work, and I really hope that these films succeed and they do well because they're deserving of it. And this is the type of films that I want to see make money, because these are the type of styles, the art, and chances I want to see filmmakers take with the properties that we've been talking about. I know that we always give flack to whenever a filmmaker, like for example, famously Zack Snyder, tries to do like a different take on Superman and Spider-Man, and it fails and horribly. But these are the type of takes, and these are the type of writing that I want backing films like this, because it's just really good, well put together writing. And I feel bad because I know this movie is going to be going up against Aquaman, and Aquaman's already getting a lot of really good pub, and people love Jason Momoa and really want to see the DC universe work out. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love that movie as well. But I just hope that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse makes its money back, because it's deserving of it. This movie is really, really good, really well put together movie. And I know that December is a really bad time to release movies. I know not only do we have Aquaman coming out, we also have the Mary Poppins movie coming out. We're still recovering from Wreck-It Ralph, which just came out a few weeks ago. And there's a Sherlock Holmes movie coming out with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. So there's a lot of competition this month, unfortunately, because there's just a lot of really good movies coming out, or a lot of really potential big tentpole movies coming out. So I really hope that this movie makes at least its money back and maybe a little more, because this is the type of films I want to see get invested. These are the type of films that deserve being invested in. I know a lot of people were skeptical about this movie. I invited a lot of people out to see this movie with me the other day, and no one went. I went alone. So I know people have been skeptical about this film, but I will tell you, shed that skepticism. This movie is really good and deserves your time and deserves your money, especially if you're a Spider-Man cosplayer or fan. this is the Spider-Man movies that you're looking for. You haven't seen a Spider-Man movie this good. I mean, Homecoming was really good, I guess. And Spider-Man 2. So I always like put the top 3 Spider-Man movies. I would probably say now in my book are Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and then this film. Because again, just do really good work, classic Spider-Man quippiness, classic Spider-Man posing, and art style. And every movie I realize that is a Spider-Man movie has to end with Spider-Man swinging through the city. I'm sorry. I know that's like a weird thing. I know that probably some people are going to get bored of it. I guess it's just everyone wants to see Spider-Man swing through a city for like a good minute and a half at the end of the movie. But I've realized now that every movie of Spider-Man ends with him swinging through the city just on a normal day. And with that, that's a wrap. Again, this movie's pretty good, really good. I would say, honestly, I know you heard my Venom review and I said Venom was really good. This is definitely a much better, well put together movie than Venom was. So I recommend, please go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It deserves your love. It deserves your time. I know you've seen a lot of superhero movies lately, but this is a little bit of a different taste of a superhero movie and a different art style and a different style movie, and you really should go watch it. There was a lot of investment in this movie. There was a lot of time and care and art style put in this movie, so please just give it a little bit of your time. It's only an hour and 45 minutes. Go check it out. It's a really, really good movie. Like, this is the type of stuff I want Sony to do. I know, and you're probably also Spider-Man'd out already at the end of this year, because not only did you have the Spider-Man video game for PS4 came out, which was pretty much game of the year for at least 3 months here in this year until Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. And I know you also had Infinity War, which you probably had the most emotional Spider-Man scene you've seen in a while. And you also had the Venom movie, which is somewhat of a Spider-Man movie. So I know that you're pretty much Spider-Man'd out already, but if you can just give this movie a little bit of your time, I'm sure you'll be well worth it. And this movie is really, really well done. I want to thank you for listening to me ramble on for an hour. Again, just to finish off with some of the plugs again that I did earlier in the show. You can find all of our merchandise. We have a bunch of merch out for the holiday season. You can find it all on Amazon.com. If you search CosplayFame, CosplayFame. We're on all social media again. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're soon going to be releasing a video that we did in MegaCon Tampa Bay, which is a while ago, where we interviewed Cospitol, so you hopefully should check out that video. Also, check out the video our friends at My Dumb Question made. They took one of the questions that we asked them and made a nice, really cool video, especially that's a tie into Aquaman, especially this time of the season, and that the movie's coming out soon. You should go check out that movie. It's really, that video is really good. It's put together by Shane and the guys there at My Dumb Question, so please go check it out. Also, again, we will be at Holiday Matsuri, which is Holiday Matsuri, HOLIDAYMATSURI.com. Please go check it out. It's going to be December 14th through 16th, again at the Orlando Marriott. Please go check it out. It's going to have a fun time up there. And lastly, of course, if you're in the Miami area and if you want to check out a comic book store, there's no other comic book store that CosplayFame recommends more. Again, in the Miami area, I'm not talking about Fort Lauderdale. I'm not talking about Lauderhill. I'm not talking about Northern Florida. I'm talking about Miami. If you're in the Miami area specifically, at 305, there's no other comic book store I recommend to check out more than Multiverse Corpse Comics. Again, you can find them on all social media at Multiverse Corpse Comics, or you can just go to their website, multiversecorpsecomics.com. They're going to have a lot of artists signing this month. They're going to have a Substitute Santa, I believe, every weekend of this month. So please go check out Multiverse Corpse Comics. They're really cool people out there. They're just as cool as us, I guess, if you think we're cool. Maybe we're not cool. I don't know. So with that, thank you for listening to me ramble on for an hour, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and have a happy holidays. You'll probably hear more from us sooner or later. Take it easy. Bye.